The skies above Zera Prime were filled with smoke and light. Cargo ships floated like insects around the orbit station. Below, the surface pulsed with neon signs, blinking over a rusted city. In the shadows of a forgotten alley, Jackson Meyer waited. His jacket was worn, his boots dusty from travel. A deep scar cut across his left cheek, a reminder of the last time he trusted the Galactic Council. He checked the time on his wrist pad. Late. The buyer should have been here by now. Jackson wasn't just waiting for money, he was moving forbidden tech. Old human weapon cores, stripped down and unstable. The Council had banned all human military designs after Earth left the Council 10 years ago. Selling them could get him killed. A soft hiss echoed. A tall alien with silver skin stepped from the fog. 4 eyes, no mouth. You have the items? The alien asked through a translator chip. Jackson opened the metal case. 6 dull blue cubes shimmered inside. They're clean. No trackers. Half power, Jackson said. The alien nodded and placed a black credit stick on the ground. Jackson reached for it. Suddenly lights flashed overhead. Sirens blared. A voice thundered from a Council drone. Unauthorized tech transfer in progress. Surrender immediately. The alien fled. Jackson grabbed the case and ran. Behind him, Council troopers dropped from a patrol ship. Energy bolts blasted into the wall beside him. Jackson turned down an alley and dove behind a stack of crates. He pulled out a remote from his jacket and tapped twice. His ship, the Lucent Star, beeped to life 2 blocks away. He sprinted, dodging fire. A trooper leapt in front of him, weapon raised. Jackson slammed into him, knocking the gun away, and kept running. The Lucent Star opened its ramp as he approached. Jackson jumped aboard and hit the hatch. It sealed shut. The engines roared. Lift off now, he shouted. The ship jolted upward, fast and sharp. Council ships chased him into the sky, firing. The Lucent Star weaved between them, engines glowing red-hot. In minutes they were in open space, heading into the outer rim. Jackson leaned back in his seat, breathing hard. Too close, he muttered. He set the ship on autopilot and walked to the cargo hold. As he checked the weapon cores, his comm panel blinked. A message: unknown source, untraceable code. Jackson frowned. He opened the file. It was a recording, broken and distorted. To anyone who can hear this, my name is Dr. Varia Cole. The Council, Skuk, created something dangerous. Project Genesis, Skuk. They used human DNA. The message cut off. Jackson stared at the screen, heart pounding. Project Genesis, human DNA. He'd never heard of it, but the name chilled him. He downloaded the message to a secure drive. He would need help to decode it. Someone who could crack Council systems. Someone he trusted. Only one name came to mind. Rilak, an old friend, a genius with machines, and the last person Jackson wanted to see again. He looked out at the stars. Something was wrong. Something big. He didn't know what Project Genesis was, but he had a feeling the Council hadn't just forced humans out. They were hiding something much worse. Jackson steered the Lucent Star toward the outer moons of Zera 9. The moon was small, dark, and filled with junkyards and secret ports. No patrols came here. The Council avoided it. That made it the perfect place to find Rilak. He hadn't seen Rilak in years. Last time they'd left on bad terms, after a mission went wrong and Jackson made a choice that got others killed. But Rilak was the only one who could help him now. The message from Dr. Vera Cole still played in his mind. Project Genesis, human DNA. As the ship landed, dust and sparks swirled around the small docking bay. The air was thick with smoke and oil. Jackson grabbed the drive with the message and tucked it into his jacket. He stepped onto the moon's surface. Broken ships lay scattered across the ground like dead beasts. He walked past scavengers, broken droids, and shifty traders, until he reached a tall, crooked tower, patched with metal and wires. At the top floor, a steel door slid open. A voice called from inside. "You've got some nerve coming here, Jackson." Jackson stepped in slowly. The workshop was a mess of screens, machines, and glowing cables. In the middle stood Rilak, a short alien with 6 arms, glowing red eyes, and greasy tools strapped across his chest. "I need your help," Jackson said. Relax snorted. "You always do. What is it this time? Weapons? A ship core? Or are you just here to say sorry?" Jackson handed him the drive. "Play this." Relax grumbled, but plugged the drive into his console. The recording played again, choppy, broken. "Dr. Vera Cole, Council created something. Project Genesis, human DNA." Relax paused the recording. "Where did you get this?" he asked, his tone more serious now. "Zera Prime. I was running a trade. It came through an encrypted signal during the escape." Relax leaned back, thinking. Vera Cole was a lead scientist for the Council's genetic division. Disappeared years ago. Rumor was she died. But if she's alive... He tapped his console rapidly. Lines of code flashed on the screen. "This encryption, it's Council Black level. Top clearance only. This wasn't meant for anyone to hear. Especially not you." Jackson nodded. "She mentioned Project Genesis. Ever heard of it?" "No," Relax said, eyes narrowing. "But if they used human DNA for some kind of weapon, that could explain a lot." "Like what?" Jackson asked. "Like why the Council really pushed humanity out," Relax replied. "They feared you, or maybe they used you, then got rid of you." Silence filled the room. Jackson looked away, his jaw tight. "Can you pull the full message?" "Maybe," Relax said. "It's damaged. But I can try reconstructing the missing parts. It'll take time." Jackson paced. "Do it, and check if I'm in their genetic records." Relax froze. "You think your DNA is in that project?" "I don't know, but if it is, I need to find out." Relax turned back to his screen. "All right, but if we do this, there's no turning back. The Council doesn't forgive, and they don't forget." Jackson stared out the window. The stars above Zera 9 blinked faintly, like distant eyes watching. "I stopped running a long time ago," he said. "Now I want the truth." Relax started the decoding process. In the quiet hum of the machines, a dark truth began to wake. The sun over Orvos was harsh, burning through thick jungle mist. Jackson's boots sank into damp soil as he pushed through tangled vines and strange glowing plants. The jungle was alive. Creatures whispered from the trees, and the air hummed with energy. Somewhere in this wild world was Nyla, the last person on Jackson's list. She wasn't easy to find, and even harder to convince. Jackson had received her last known coordinates from Relax, who stayed behind on Zera 9 to continue decoding the message from Dr. Vera Cole. The partial files they had recovered were clear now. Project Genesis was real, and it was active. The message had revealed one more terrifying detail. Project Genesis was built from enhanced human DNA, not just any DNA. Jackson's. His blood was used as a base. His genetic code was the key, and now the Council was using it to build something powerful. Jackson needed help. Someone who knew how to fight. Someone who hated the Council even more than he did. That someone was Nyla of Orvos. He reached a clearing. There in the center stood a tall figure, muscular, fierce, with long silver braids and dark armor made of bone and steel. Her eyes locked onto him. "You shouldn't have come here," she said flatly, aiming a pulse rifle at his chest. "I came to ask for your help," Jackson said calmly. "I remember your last request," she said. "You walked away and left me to deal with the fallout." Jackson raised his hands. "I was wrong. But this is bigger. Much bigger." She didn't lower the rifle. "Talk fast." Jackson stepped closer and pulled out a small hollow device. He tapped it, and Vera Cole's broken message played. "Project Genesis. Using human DNA. Jackson Meyer. If you're hearing this, they've activated it." He shut it off. Nyla stared at him. Her finger moved away from the trigger. "That name," she said. "Vera Cole. I know it. My people raided a Council outpost years ago. We found records, redacted files. They were experimenting, building something, afraid of it. It's real," Jackson said. "And it's tied to me. The Council used me, Nyla. I want to stop it. But I need your strength." She looked away, thinking. A bird-like creature shrieked overhead. The jungle shifted. "You want to destroy it?" she asked. "I want to expose it. Then destroy it," Jackson said. "Before Drovek uses it." Nyla lowered her weapon. "Fine, but we do this my way." Jackson nodded. "Agreed." They trekked back to her hidden camp, built deep in the trees. It was small but strong. Weapons, scanners, maps of council reds. Nyla introduced him to her second-in-command, a silent brute named Torek. Trust would come slowly. That night around a low fire, Nyla showed Jackson a file she had stolen from a council courier months ago. It had a single word, Genesis. The file was locked, but Rilek could break it. "We need to get this to him," Jackson said. "There's a council vault nearby," Nyla added. "If we break in, we might find more. But it's heavily guarded." Jackson smirked. "I've broken into worse." She gave a short nod. The alliance was formed. One rogue pilot, one rebel warrior, and a secret that could tear the galaxy apart. The loosened star shuddered as it entered the rift zone. The stars outside twisted and stretched like smoke. Space here didn't follow normal rules. The rift was a broken part of the galaxy, filled with strange gravity waves and old wreckage from wars long forgotten. The council avoided it, but Jackson, Nyla, and Rilek were heading straight into its heart. Rilek sat at the main console, typing fast. "We're getting close. The signal from the Genesis file is coming from inside a derelict council archive ship, the Helios Vault. It's been dead for years." Jackson kept his eyes on the scanners. "Let's hope it stays dead." Nyla stood near the loading bay, checking her weapons. Her voice was calm, but her hands were tense. "Council ships don't drift out here without reason. If they left something behind, it was meant to stay hidden." The Helios Vault appeared through the swirling clouds, massive and broken, its metal hull torn open, wires and parts floating like debris. A single signal pulsed from deep inside, steady and faint. Jackson guided the ship close and matched the rotation. He locked onto a small docking port. "Let's move," he said. They entered the vault through a narrow corridor. Their suits kept them safe from the cold air and radiation. Lights flickered weakly inside. The halls were filled with floating crates, old council insignias, and shattered control panels. "This place was a research archive," Rilek said, scanning the walls. "Everything classified. Everything dangerous." They moved through the dark halls slowly. Nyla spotted something ahead. Contact up ahead. A floating drone, barely alive, zipped toward them. Jackson shot it down with one blast. The sound echoed. They reached the main data chamber. A large console sat in the center, still powered. Strange tubes lined the walls, some filled with old samples. One still had a shape inside. A human body, or something close. Rilek moved to the console. "Give me a few minutes. I'll pull what's left." Jackson stood guard while Nyla checked the samples. She paused at one tube and looked at Jackson. "This one, it looks like you." Jackson stepped closer. The face inside was pale, lifeless but familiar. Rilek spoke up. "I've got the files. Full Genesis logs. Listen to this." He played a message. "This is Dr. Vera Cole. Project Genesis has reached Phase 5. Subject DNA. Jackson Meyer shows rapid adaptive growth. Council orders complete silence. If the subject finds out, terminate." Jackson felt cold. "They used me without my knowledge," he said. "They copied me, built weapons from me. And they didn't stop." Rilek said, "There's more. Drovek authorized a fail-safe, something called the Override Protocol. If the Genesis units ever turned against the Council, they could trigger a signal to destroy them all. That signal is housed at Virion Station." Nyla turned. "That's where we go next." Suddenly alarms blared. "Security system just woke up." Rilek shouted. Defense drones activated. Red lights flashed. "Run!" Jackson yelled. They dashed back through the vault, shooting down drones as they came. A blast hit the ceiling, causing debris to fall. Jackson helped Rilek through the narrow hallway. As Nyla cleared the path, they barely made it back to the loosened star. Jackson launched the ship as energy blasts struck the hull. They escaped the rift just as the vault collapsed behind them. In the silence of space, the team sat in shock. They didn't just use your DNA, Rillick said. They made copies, clones, soldiers, maybe more. Jackson's jaw tightened. Androvek has the key to control them. Nyla looked out at the stars. Then we take the fight to Virion. Jackson nodded. No more running. Orbital Station Virion hovered above the dying star Yarn 3. Its structure was massive, shining with silver towers and wide rings that spun slowly around its core. Thousands of ships docked there each day. But this week was different. The Galactic Council was holding a summit. Every leader from every allied species had gathered. The council wanted to show strength and unity. But Jackson, Nyla, and Rillick knew the truth behind the speeches and banners. They weren't here to watch. They were here to end Project Genesis. Jackson stood at the edge of the docking bay, wearing a clean gray uniform and a helmet that hid his face. Rillick had hacked into the station's system and inserted false IDs. Nyla dressed as a council guard, her face hidden beneath armor. Rillick, too small to pass as a soldier, stayed behind in the ship to guide them remotely. Stay sharp, Rillick's voice said through their earpieces. Security's tight, cameras everywhere. You've got 30 minutes before the access keys I gave you shut down. Jackson nodded and walked with Nyla into the crowd. Inside, the station was sleek and bright. Hallways curved smoothly, lined with light. Banners of peace symbols hung beside armed guards. The summit buzzed with voices in every language. They passed through scanners and checkpoints, unnoticed. I've marked the data core chamber, Rillick said. It's below the council hall, level 47. That's where they store the override protocol. Jackson and Nyla took a lift down, silent as the metal walls moved around them. I don't like this place, Nyla whispered. Too clean, too quiet. Jackson agreed. Every smile felt fake. Every light hid a shadow. The lift stopped. They stepped into a quiet hall. Doors lined both sides, most locked. Rillick pinged their path. Last door on the left. Hurry. They reached the chamber. Jackson opened the door using the forged ID. Inside was a glowing console surrounded by cooling vents and silent machines. This is it, Rillick said. That console holds the kill code for every Genesis unit. Drove controls it with a biolock, but I've prepared a bypass. Jackson moved to the console. He placed a small cube from Rillick on the surface. It blinked once, then again. A loading bar appeared. Suddenly footsteps. A voice behind them. You should have stayed in exile, Jackson. They turned. Chancellor Drovkak stood in the doorway, flanked by elite guards. His dark robe shimmered, and his pale blue skin looked almost metallic. His 4 black eyes were cold. You broke into my station. You touched what wasn't yours. I'm taking back what you stole. Jackson said, my DNA, my future. Drovkak stepped forward slowly. You were always special, Jackson. That's why we chose you. Project Genesis was meant to protect the galaxy. You were the model. You should be proud. You built weapons from my body. Jackson said, you lied to the council. You used fear to keep power. Drovkak smiled faintly. Fear keeps peace. Nyla raised her weapon. Step back. But Drovkak lifted a small device from his sleeve. You can't stop this, he said. Genesis has grown beyond you. I only came here to offer a choice. Jackson stared at him. What choice? Join me, Drovkak said. Take control of the Genesis units. Lead them. Become what you were meant to be. We'll rule together. Bring order. Jackson stepped closer, his voice low and steady. I don't want control. I want freedom, for everyone. Then he smashed the device from Drovkak's hand and lunged. Blasters fired. Guards attacked. Nyla moved fast, taking 2 down with clean shots. Jackson rolled across the floor, grabbing a stun baton and knocking out a 3rd. The console's bar reached 100%. Rillick's voice shouted, now. Jackson slammed his hand onto the cube. The lights blinked. Override protocol deactivated. Every Genesis unit in the galaxy, every clone, every experiment, was now free. Drovkak screamed in rage. You fool. They'll turn on us all. Jackson looked at him. Let them choose for themselves. Alarms blared. More guards stormed in. Jackson and Nyla ran, pushing through chaos, heading for the lifts. The summit was falling apart. Leaders argued. Orders clashed. They reached the docking bay just as the loosened star landed. Rillick opened the hatch. Move. They jumped aboard. As they flew away from the station, Jackson watched Virion shrink in the distance. The council was no longer in full control, and the truth was out. The loosened star sped through the stars, quiet and dark. Jackson sat in the cockpit, staring at the screen. His face was calm, but his mind raced. The override signal had worked. Every Genesis unit was now free from the Council's control, but the fight wasn't over. The Council still had the original command core. If they reactivated it, they could rebuild control. According to Rillick's data, the heart of Project Genesis wasn't on Virion. It was deep inside a hidden vault below the station's foundation, sealed under heavy protection. A backup control node. Final fail-safe. If Drovek reached it, everything they had done could be reversed. We need to go back, Jackson said. Nyla frowned. That place will be on full lockdown. I don't care, Jackson said. We finish this tonight. Rillick tapped quickly on his console. There's a hidden tunnel through the lower maintenance rings. Old escape route from the war days. We can get in through there. They turned the loosened star around and approached the dark side of Virion. Lights blinked across the station. No ships came near the bottom levels. It was dead space, unmonitored, forgotten by most. They entered through a sealed hatch. Inside it was cold and silent. Jackson led the way, his blaster ready. Rillick followed, checking signals. Nyla watched their back. The tunnel stretched for a mile, filled with rusted panels and old markings. They reached a large vault door. Faded words above it read, Genesis Core. Restricted access. I'll get it open, Rillick said, placing a device on the panel. The door creaked and slid open. Inside was a huge chamber, lit by a single blue light from the ceiling. In the center stood a tall cylinder, glowing from within. Machines hummed. Cables moved like snakes. Dozens of cryopods lined the walls, each holding a clone. Some looked just like Jackson. Nyla walked slowly among them. So many. Jackson stepped to the control panel. A voice echoed through the chamber. I warned you. Drovek stepped from the shadows. His face was bruised, but his posture strong. Behind him stood two advance guards in heavy armor. I gave you a choice, Drovek said. You chose to betray your own kind. They were never mine, Jackson replied. They were yours. You stole my DNA. You built slaves. I built peace, Drovek said. Chaos needs a master. You could have been that master. I choose freedom. Drovek raised his hand. Then you choose war. The guards attacked. Jackson ducked and fired. Nyla moved fast, tackling one guard and driving her blade into its neck joint. Sparks flew. Rillick took cover, working to shut down the vault controls. Jackson and the second guard clashed. The guard was stronger, faster, one of the enhanced. But Jackson was smarter. He dodged a heavy punch and shot the power pack on the guard's back. It exploded, sending the guard flying. Drovek pulled a blaster, aimed at Rillick. Jackson fired. First, the shot hit Drovek in the shoulder. He fell to his knees, bleeding. You ruined everything, Drovek hissed. No, Jackson said. I ended it. Rillick finished his work. The control core blinked red. Genesis system, permanently disabled. The chamber lights dimmed. The pods powered down. The clones inside would never be used as weapons. Jackson stepped over to Drovek, who lay gasping. You'll never control anyone again, Jackson said. Then he walked away. The team returned to the loosened star in silence. As they left the station, the Genesis vault exploded behind them. Rillick had rigged it to self-destruct. No more copies. No more control. As the ship sailed into deep space, Jackson looked out the window. He thought of the clones, the council, The future. It wasn't over. But now it was their future to choose. The lucent star drifted through space, quiet and calm. Inside, the crew sat together for the first time without alarms, gunfire, or fear pressing down on them. Jackson stood by the window, watching the stars. Project Genesis was gone. The Council's secret weapon was destroyed. Inivith Drovk had been taken into custody by his own guards after the explosion. The Council tried to deny the truth, but it was too late. The files Relek had copied were already spreading across the galaxy. People were waking up. Nyla leaned against the wall, her armor scratched and worn. Words out. Rebels on 3 planets are rising. Council members are resigning. No one wants to be tied to Genesis anymore. Relek nodded. Even some of the clones have surfaced. They're confused, scared, but they're free now. Jackson stayed quiet. He felt the weight of it all. It hadn't been just a mission. It was personal. His own blood had been turned into a tool of power, and he had ended it. Relek broke the silence. The Council sent you a message, by the way. Jackson turned. What did they say? They want to meet, Relek said. Peace talks. They're offering you a seat. Nyla scoffed. Typical. You tear down their lies, and now they want you in the room. Jackson thought for a moment, then shook his head. I don't want power. I want change. But not like them. Not through control. So what now? Relek asked. Jackson looked around at his crew. At the ship. At the ship. At the stars. We help rebuild. Not with politics. With action. People are scared. Lost. We show them there's another way. A better one. Nyla smiled. You just became something more dangerous than a soldier or a leader. What's that? Jackson asked. A symbol, she said. They all shared a quiet laugh. It felt good to breathe without a fight waiting on the other side. Later, as the ship floated toward a distant star system, Jackson stood alone in the cockpit. He thought about Earth. He thought about the clones. About Veracall. About the freedom he had finally taken back. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring. But for the first time in years, it was their choice. Their path. Their future. The crew of the Lucent Star set a course into the unknown. Together.